what's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode 24 of the Alec Walt Show. I'm your host, Alec Walt, alongside another very special guest, and today we're talking about the National Hockey League. The Stanley Cup final is set between the Montreal Canadiens and Tampa Bay Lightning, and joining me to preview that series is Rob Brender, the host of the Rink Rat Show on Washington Capitals 24/7. Rob, welcome to the show, man. I really appreciate you joining me.
No problem, pal. Anytime.
Awesome. Well, when you look at this matchup right now with the Stanley Cup playoffs, we have one team we expected to be there, one team we did not expect to be there. Let's talk with the team about the team we didn't expect to be there. That's the Montreal Canadiens. Or how surprised are you that they're going to the Stanley Cup Finals?
Shocked. Completely shocked. I mean, if you look at the way that their season went, especially after the first month, they really weren't a very good hockey team. They were battling a lot of injuries. Carey Price went out for a little while. Shea Weber battled some hand issues. They had some real depth problems along their back line, especially because of those injuries. And I'm sure that was a big part of the reason why they just really didn't play well for about a 2.5-month span. And actually, they were the last team to qualify for the playoffs this year. So there was a chance they weren't going to make it. Calgary, even though they had an awful season, they were breathing down their necks up until the final week or so of the regular campaign. So there was a chance they weren't even going to get in. And then suddenly, it's as though a light bolt went on, or maybe they just flipped the switch, if you want to say that. I mean, they suddenly just turned things on, and it really didn't come until they were down 3-1 in the series against Toronto, their opening round series. And again, it's just as though the light bulb went on, and they said, we're a better team than we've been playing like, and they started to really buckle down defensively. First of all, they got healthy before the playoffs. That definitely helped. And they started to buckle down defensively, and Carey Price has become the Carey Price that we saw win the Vezina, medal in the Olympics, and win an MVP. I mean, he's that caliber player again, and so clearly that's bred a lot of confidence within their roster. And they have a really nice mix of youth and veterans, and those young players like Kasperi Kotkaniemi and Cole Caulfield are really helping them right now. They're getting key goals at key times. And the veterans are playing really well, like Corey Perry, who they went out and got for $750,000, started the season on their taxi squad. Nobody even knew that he'd be on the NHL roster for more than a couple of games this season, and here he is, a main contributor for them in the playoffs. And so you add all those things up, the injuries I talked about, the players who weren't necessarily expected to contribute, their goaltender becoming a Vezina caliber player again, and it equates to a team that's made a really surprising and fun run to watch.
So most people, like you mentioned, know Carey Price. He's a guy who's been a goaltender in the NHL for a very long time. A name people know but may not have watched a lot is that rookie in Cole Caulfield. Just give me a breakdown of what you think this kid is and how he's been such a huge impact for this team here in the postseason.
Well, I won a Hobie Baker this year, so he's the best player in college hockey, and he clearly has a ton of skill. If people watch any of the under-18 play, he's been an under-18 player for Team USA for a long time, playing in the IHF ranks. He's a kid who has a ton of speed and amazing handles. I mean, that's really how he gets by. He's kind of I don't want to call him out of the mold of Theo Fleury because everybody compares a short player, if you will, to Theo Fleury. He's not that kind of player. Theo is more of a grind it out. He'll hit you in the corners. Cole's not that kind of guy. Cole is a skilled player who utilizes his speed, utilizes his amazing stick handling ability to score big goals. And what he's done is he comes up the final month or so of the season, gives them a game or two at the very end, scores a couple of big goals in overtime in the regular season. And since the playoffs have began, that youthful exuberance has really, kind of rubbed off on his teammates, number one, but he's scoring big goals for them on a regular basis. And again, he's a very, very young kid. And he just comes in and he doesn't know what it's like to play under pressure in the playoffs. It's just let's go out there and have a lot of fun. He is having a lot of fun. And he's just one of two or three really good young players on this Montreal team. Suzuki is a nice player on the front line for them too. Kotkaniemi as well. So they have three big-time young forwards who are all either in their teens or young 20s who are contributing on this roster. But Cole Caulfield is probably the best of that bunch.
So looking at the Canadiens right now, their head coach isn't on the bench right now. He's expected to be back by Game 3 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. With going up against an experienced head coach like John Cooper, how much do you think it's going to affect Montreal not having their head man on the bench?
Well, if you look at what they did in the Vegas series, not at all would be my answer. They were without Dominic Ducharme for the last, I think it was 3 games of that series. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 3 games they were without him when he tested positive for COVID. So odd that he did test positive because he's completely vaccinated, so it's really unfortunate. But they didn't skip a beat, and it speaks to the veterans on that roster. Guys like Shea Weber has been around for a very long time, a tremendous defenseman, probably heading to the Hall of Fame as their captain. And as I mentioned, they brought in some veteran guys like Corey Perry, who clearly has been a part of a winning team before. He doesn't even wear a letter on his sweater. You see him talking to the officials during games, which is something you don't normally see in the NHL. They don't really get that privilege unless you're wearing a sweater, but he's respected that much around the league. He can get away with it. And Tyler Toffoli has been around with some Kings winners, so that they've got enough veterans. And yeah, I mean, again, if you were to base it off of no experience and you hadn't seen them without Ducharme to this point, I would say it would be a slight concern. So watching them in that Vegas series, I mean, you go out and you beat Vegas in 6 when they were expected to get swept in that series, and they were without Ducharme for a few games. It clearly wasn't a factor at all. So I don't expect much of a factor here.
So, Rob, looking at the Tampa Bay Lightning, one of their key players, Nikita Kucherov, has been banged up all season, including right now heading into the Stanley Cup. If he's not 100%, how will that affect the Lightning?
As a matter of fact, he led forwards in ice time in the first period. He had over 6 minutes of ice time in the first period. I didn't see what the time on ice was in the second and third for him, but he was out there, not much of a contributor in terms of putting the puck in the net. They only scored once in Game 7, and it was all they needed. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a concern for them. It's been a concern. They were without him the entire regular season. Came back, looked good, got that cross-check in game number 6. As I said, he did play in game 7, but wasn't much of a factor. But, yeah, I think it's certainly something to be mindful of and to watch. They didn't really get anything out of Steven Stamkos in the Islanders series, and he was also a guy who battled injury most of the regular season. It's going to be interesting to watch how the power play for Tampa operates without a completely healthy Kucherov, completely healthy, because they have such an unbelievable power play, and he's a big part of that. And if he can't be out there 100%, maybe it changes things and weakens the power play a little bit, because their power play against the Montreal penalty kill, which has been unbelievable in the playoffs. They have a lot of power play goals since the Toronto series. That's really going to be something to watch in this final. That's as a matter of fact, I think that's the key area to watch, is how many power play goals can Tampa get, and how great is that defense from Montreal, because that's really been the story so far.
Whenever anyone talks about the Tampa Bay Lightning, guys that are frequently brought up, like we have so far in this show, Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, and we haven't mentioned Victor Hedman yet, but he's also one of the more popular names on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Would you agree with me that one of the most underrated players in the NHL is Brayden Point?
Oh, Brayden Point is unbelievable. I mean, if you were talking about Hall of Fame candidacy just based on what he's done in the postseason, 10 consecutive games with a goal that was snapped in game number 7, I mean, that's phenomenal. He's a tremendous, tremendous player. You're fair to say, it's fair to say that he is underrated, because all the attention goes to these 4 or 5 other players on their roster that are just phenomenal talents. Which does speak to the depth on that team. And we haven't even talked about Andrei Vasilevsky yet. There hasn't been a trophy-winning goaltender, maybe the best goalie in the league to this point. But yeah, Brayden Point is probably the top postseason player of this generation, which is incredible to say. I mean, he's won the Stanley Cup. He scores goals essentially every single game for them in the postseason. He's as clutch gets. You talk about primetime performers. He is that guy. And yeah, when you think about game planning Tampa Bay, you think Kucherov, you think Stamkos, like you said, Hedman. You can go down the line. They're just such a deep roster, but he is a phenomenal postseason player.
So let's look at it from a game plan perspective for the Montreal Canadiens. Yes, they have been the underdog in pretty much every series. When you look at this matchup against the Tampa Bay Lightning, one of the better teams they've played, if not the best team they've played so far in the postseason, how do they game plan against this team to potentially take home the Stanley Cup?
Well, I think you just have to keep playing like you've been playing if you're Montreal. Yeah. The key is going to be have the confidence in Carey Price to do his job, and if he plays the way that he's been playing at this kind of level, then you don't have to worry about a whole lot on the back end. He is your savior. He is your brick wall back there. They have to play this type of lights-out, shut-down defense that they were able to play again, especially against Vegas. I mean, it's one thing to do it against kind of an undermanned offensive team in Winnipeg. Obviously, we know Toronto has some firepower too, so they did a great job there. But if they keep buckling down on defense, they keep preventing power play goals. As I said, that's going to be a huge key because Tampa's so potent on the power play. And if you put them on the power play, most of the time they're going to score. If you can find a way to shut them down on that power play, you're going to give yourself an opportunity. So that's really the key for me for Montreal. Shut down that Tampa power play and keep buckling down and prevent quality shots in the slot. They got away with it against Vegas. Vegas is a good offensive team, and they really kept them out of that main scoring area, the prime scoring area in front of the net. And that's, to me, the only way that they're going to have a chance in the series. But I will say this, Alec, they have a chance. You know, there's a lot of people saying, well, they're the underdogs again. There's no way they could beat Tampa. People said the same thing against Vegas. People said the same thing against Toronto. People even said the same thing against Winnipeg. There's no way they could beat those teams. And they did. They found a way. So don't count them out.
So we talk a lot about Carey Price. The guy in goal for Tampa is also one of the best in the National Hockey League. Going into this series, who do you think has the edge in net?
God, there is none. Honestly, I call it a wash. I really do.
Really?
And that's a cop-out maybe, but yeah, 100% wash. Vasilevsky, for me, is the best goalie in the league right now, period. I don't think that there's another goalie that's even quite that close. But Carey Price is the next closest. So, with the way he's playing right now. So, yeah, I don't think either one, you know, you could look at and you could say there's major advantages either way. They're just both incredible players. So,
Rob, before I let you go, what is your prediction for the 2021 Stanley Cup Finals?
Yeah, I would be, I talked with this yesterday too, it's funny. I mean, I would be out of my mind to pick Montreal, but I just gave you all the reasons why you shouldn't count out Montreal. I don't have a dog in the fight, right? That's the old saying. I really don't. I don't root for either team. I'm totally straight down the middle. On paper, there is no reason to believe Montreal should win this series. Just like on paper, there's no reason to believe that they would beat Vegas, and they did it in 6. Can they continue that against this Lightning team? Can they shut down the best power play in the league? Yeah, I mean, based on what they did against Vegas, I think they can. Will they? Oh, boy. If you're asking me now, if you put a gun to my head and I had to make a pick, I would say I would take Tampa in 6.
Okay.
But, again, I'm not counting out Montreal. I'm not. 100%. If Montreal wins the series, I'm not going to be shocked.
Awesome. Well, Rob, quickly before we let you go, how can our listeners keep in touch with you on social media, and where can they listen to your show?
Hey, at Robert Brender. That's pretty simple on all the socials. Yeah, can't get much more simple than that. I made it as easy as I could. And then you can hear the other one on the Rink Rat Show is on Capitals Radio 24/7, which is the Washington Capitals 24-hour, 7-day-a-week channel. You can find it online. Just Google search Caps Radio 24/7, and the show runs frequently all the time. They have a schedule online. It changes regularly. So I would say just go there and find it there.
Awesome. Well, Rob, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate you joining me.
You got it, pal. Talk to you next time.
Sounds good. Well, that's going to be it for this episode of the Alec Walt Show. I'm your host, Alec Walt, alongside Rob Brender. Who do you think wins the 2021 Stanley Cup Final? Feel free to comment that below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Down the Block Sports for more of my exclusive content. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you very soon.